Good morning. I'm Mayor Dean Brookie, and I'd like to welcome you all to this special meeting of Durango City Council. It is actually as a council meeting, given the fact that all the council members are with us today. So would like to welcome you. The time is now 11:01. In lieu of a roll call, I'd like to just recognize that myself, Dean Brookie, Mayor Pro Tem Kim Baxter, Melissa Youssef, Councilor Bettine, and Councilor Noseworthy are all in attendance. So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. We appreciate your time this morning to meet with the city and help us get through through the state health rules that are causing so much financial stress right now for your area businesses, for our area businesses, I should say. Our goal is to ensure that public safety is paramount, but also do whatever we can to minimize the financial pain we're all feeling. We have a moderator for this morning's discussion, just to keep the comments rolling, and our job as councilors is to listen and see if there's any ideas that we haven't already implemented that you can share with us this morning. I should just note that it seems like forever ago now, but it was only a week ago Friday that we did send a unanimous letter to the governor in support of the 5-star program. It was signed by myself on behalf of all councilors to request that the governor consider the 5-star program type of program for specifically for Durango. As of last night, we understand that he has considered it. If it comes with the metrics that counties on level red are eligible only if a county has a 2-week sustained decline in incidents, perceived positivity, and hospitalizations. Therefore, that's certainly not our situation at the moment. So given the fact that the governor's response is that we probably would not be able to implement a 5-star program in the near future, a number of resort communities throughout the state have also sent a letter last night. I'm also president of Colorado Association of Ski Towns, and we sent a real simple request to the governor, which was to allow all restaurants, as an example, in resort communities specifically, but throughout the state, to remain open for the holidays, in hope that he would give consideration of that kind of implementation in lieu of given the fact that the 5-star program is not responsive to our needs, and B, timely enough of a program that we could implement for the holiday season. So know that we did, I did send that letter out. Council, that did not come from the city of Durango, but I know that the county might be considering a similar request, and it's something that our councilors can consider as well as we move forward in this discussion. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stacy Behn. Is it Behn, Stacy, or did I pronounce that wrong? Oh, thank you for correcting me, and we're happy to have you and lead this discussion. So take it away, Stacy.
Thank you, Mayor Brookie. So everyone, my name is Stacy Behn. I'm a facilitator with Strategic by Nature. As a small business owner here in the community myself, I understand we have some very important dialogue to navigate today. Before I go into all of the details to introduce this, I just want to also acknowledge our other panelists that we have on the call. We have our city manager, Jose Madrigal, our city attorney, Dirk Nelson, chief of police, Bob Brammer, Dave Woodruff with the Colorado Restaurant Association, and Tim Walsworth with the Business Improvement District. And we have Mitchell here with the City of Durango, who's also helping with the moderating today in terms of the question queue. So today the forum is primarily for the benefit of business owners and nonprofit leaders to engage with the community leaders and city council. As the mayor said, the city council is really here to listen, and we'll be considering everything that's discussed as they move forward in the future. We really welcome the public to be here today, and we're excited for the 47 plus people that are on the call. But we ask that the public reserve your comments so that the panelists and the business owners can really maximize the time today. We have a hard stop at 1 o'clock and want to make sure that we hear from all the business and nonprofit owners that we can. So Mitchell, if you could share this slide with the meeting outcomes. So our meeting outcomes today are to use a learning mindset to listen to solutions that will help the City of Durango be supportive, protecting businesses and keeping people safe in the community. And we're engaging in a productive dialogue that positions the city, businesses, and nonprofits to be impactful and effective. We're going to answer these focused questions of in terms of the programs the city is implementing, which ones work, which ones don't, and how can the city best advocate for your business and nonprofit. And something to keep in mind as we move through are the meeting agreements. So we're here to equalize participation. We're going to be honoring time limits and meeting protocols. Listening to understand. So that means we can ask follow-up questions and dig in if we don't understand what's being offered. We want to show respect for others and be kind and respectful in our words, action, and meeting conduct. We want to keep questions and comments in line with the questions that we're posing, really focusing on what can be preserved and what can be changed with the city programs. And our panelists are here to add clarification and respond to comments as appropriate. But we're not here to debate or defend past policy. We're here to provide constructive feedback to inform the future. And please avoid repeating things that have already been said by others. That will also help us maximize our time moving forward. And I, the moderator, and Mitchell will be holding people accountable to these agreements, and we will use the mute button or interrupt conversations that are veering off topic or become unprofessional. For the meeting protocols for today, this is a live presentation. You can advance the slide, please. Questions will be taken via the queue, so you can raise your hand to get into the queue when we open it up for comments. And you can use *9 if you're calling in on your phone to raise your hand. You'll be on mute unless it's your turn to speak, and we ask that you limit your comment or question to one per turn, but once you speak, you can please get in the queue again to go again, because we would like to make sure that we hear from everybody and hear what everyone has to say. You will have 3 minutes, and Mitchell will have signs that will tell you when you're like halfway through and then when it's time for you to be done. And we also ask that you please identify yourself and the business or nonprofit that you represent when it's your turn. And again, as a reminder, if you're a member of the public and are not here representing a business or nonprofit, please save your comments toward the end of the meeting so that we can prioritize the business leaders and nonprofit leaders to speak up first. And the city is recording this and taking notes, so keep that in mind as well. So we will open the floor, and I'm going to remind you our question of the day is that the City of Durango is implementing a variety of programs to help struggling businesses and nonprofits. We would like to hear which ones work, which ones don't, what can be preserved, what can be changed, and then also how can the city best advocate for your business or nonprofit. So with that, I don't see any hands raised yet, but maybe we could start with some of our panelists if you have anything you'd like to kick us off with.
Stacy, I do see someone who has raised their hand. Miriam, I have invited you to speak. Please give us your full name and the organization that you're with, and you have 3 minutes.
Miriam Gilla-Wiles, the Executive Director of the Southwest Colorado Council of Governments. And I was just wondering where public health is on the panelists, as I know that we can't have economic development and recovery without there being comprehensive science and sound policy to make this happen. But that was my only comment. So have a lovely meeting. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Miriam. All right, any panelists? Jose, go ahead.
Yeah, I can address that. We had reached out to San Juan Basin Public Health in regards to helping us with the facilitation of a discussion. They had been involved in other discussions to do so. And so at this time, they asked us to kind of proceed without them and go through. And really what we're looking on here is not so much of the health discussion, but more of what are there some things that maybe the cities could be looking at doing, maybe clarifying some of the things that the city is doing to help local businesses. So we're really focusing on that portion on this conversation.
Thank you, Jose. I might add that we're having another a special meeting with them later this evening, I believe 5:30 this evening, amongst the health officials to relate some of the ideas that may come out of this meeting to for further discussion, both components as well. So, good question, Miriam.
Great, thank you.
Jose, I might ask if it might be helpful to just have a quick review of a number of the items that we already have implemented and are considering, and get a reaction as to whether those are in fact impactful in folks' lives, or what else we could do to strengthen some of the measures we've already taken.
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure. Kind of looking at it in regards to some of the efforts that we've taken. There were efforts that were taken before I came here, so I'd like to kind of recap a little bit of that. When we look at the non-monetary efforts, and these are efforts in which the city went forward without actually providing dollars to the businesses, but we did do efforts that helped with it. So, we did over the spring our bump out program for the restaurants. We did modify some of our parking so we could allow on-site parking areas for outdoor commerce. We've allowed temporary signage. We helped with federal stimulus business application assistance. We extended our bistro table program. We provided free dedicated downtown parking spaces for takeout. We created an option to allow food and retail trucks in public right-of-way. We've also looked at some other things that we're doing kind of currently right now, is looking and assessing our code enforcement department to participate in assistance with the 5-star program, if that's something that is able to move through with our county, and working with BID in making that be a partner and being of assistance. We are also starting a PR campaign to kick off in January 2021 to encourage health safety efforts, with the goal really being to bringing back indoor dining, being able to get to a part where we can do that responsibly and healthy, as well as keeping our businesses open and looking at continuing to have our local economy continue to thrive. Monetary efforts, here's kind of some of the things that we've done monetarily. Over the spring, we did have a sales tax deferral program that was allowed. So businesses with under $2 million in revenue, we allowed them to defer their sales tax as long as we were under an emergency order. And we did look at about $86,000 was deferred to help out in that conquest. Also, we looked at CARES funding grants in the amount of $820,000 that we're in the process of distributing out. 520 from the city, 300,000 from the county. So we are looking at doing that and doing those first disbursements out this Friday. We will have a second round of funding that is open right now. If you didn't get a chance to do round one to apply for, that's another 200,000 that's available. We are also doing third-party delivery fee reimbursement for any fee that's being charged of greater than 15%. On this, the council earlier this week on Tuesday directed staff to bring back a ordinance to cap third-party delivery fees at 15% for them to consider on January. So we'll be looking at doing that relatively here soon. In January, the council is also going to consider a forgiveness of water, sewer, trash, and recycling bills for 3 months, which would be about an estimated, taking a guess, those that would fit into it, about a 1.3 million is what we're probably looking at, a conservative estimate of what that might entail for 3 months. And we are also just working with the county now. They've reached out to us and we're having discussions to possibly distribute an additional $400,000 of funding. This is the funding that the county is receiving from the state. And this newly appropriated state funding would be for local businesses who've been impacted via reduced capacity. So we're finalizing that with the county and also looking at being able to participate as the city, since we've kind of already have the platform set up to take it applications, review applications, and send out disbursements. So those are the monetary efforts that are going on as we speak. And that's the totality, I believe, of the things that we've been able to do to assist with the restaurants and business community.
Thank you, Jose. And for all of you that are on the call, we're asking today, if you just joined us, that we respond with what works of these programs and what can be improved as the city moves forward. We do have a hand up from Michele Reddin. Michele, when you're able to speak, if you could please say your full name and the business that you represent.
Hi, my name is Michele Reddin. I represent Cuckoo's Chicken House, the Roost Restaurant, and the Anima City Theater. My question's about the city grants. And I listened to the city council meeting on Tuesday, and I'm wondering how they decided to disperse those funds. There was one talk of dividing it equally between the 175 applicants, which would amount to a little over $3,000 per business. When the grant said they were up to 15,000, I'm wondering if there's more funds that could be appropriated to those grants to make them larger, to possibly get them to the 15,000 for those that are eligible. So that's my question.
Thank you, Michele.
Okay, thank you, Michele. Very good question. Here's a little bit of the background of where we landed. The $15,000, I think, is the maximum that CARES funding allows that we could give to one entity. So that's kind of where we looked at using that dollar amount, that it could be up to 15,000. Obviously, it depended upon how many applications that we received, because we have a finite amount of money in this first round, which was 620,000. We did end up going with the tier system. And as we look at how those funding levels were determined, we do have a matrix and a scoring sheet that was placed through in the application process. And the drivers that we really looked at were the loss of revenue, efforts to remain open, and if the business was ordered to close or limit capacity, and specifically if the business was in the retail, restaurant, or tourism industry. So businesses that scored higher than 90 received $5,000, is going to receive a $5,700 grant. So we have about 65 businesses that fell in that category. Businesses that scored between a 60, higher than a 60, lower than a 90, are going to receive $3,150 in grants. And we have 73 businesses that fall in that category. And any score lower than 60 received $1,100. And then we had about 14 businesses that fell in that category. With the additional $400,000 that's coming in, that is another opportunity. We believe that we can go ahead and use that for additional monies for these same applicants to participate in, but we are still kind of formalizing that with the county to make sure that we know the stipulations, as that's new money that's coming in. So we do think, though, that there's going to be an opportunity for more funding to be available. And we're kind of looked at that tier progress, because we really wanted to focus the dollars more where those that were most affected, and making sure, though, that at least we had a fair and equitable system, which I believe that we had. We had a staff of three participants that were the applicant reviewers, and I think they did a pretty good job of dispersing the funds, and we will begin issuing checks on Friday to those that applied.
Thank you. All right, we have some more questions coming in, so I'll keep us moving. Meg, you are going to be up next. Please identify your full name and your business or nonprofit you represent, and you have 3 minutes. Looks like we're having some mute challenges.
Meg, I have invited you to speak. Please unmute yourself and give us your full name and who you are representing today. Looks like Meg may be having some difficulties. Meg, if you are able to figure out unmuting, please raise your hand later and we'll come back to you. Next person on the list is Carly. Carly, I have invited you to speak. Please unmute yourself. Give us your full name and who you are representing.
My name is Carly Thompson. I'm representing Zia Taqueria. I am curious to hear regarding the city grants, when those businesses will be hearing from someone at the city on what they scored and what they'll be receiving, as the funds need to be spent in the next 13 days.
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you, Carly. Those emails were just sent out right now. Our Devin Schmidt, who's over our business relief fund efforts, just sent me the message that she just sent those emails out right now. So you should be getting those in your email inbox.
Thank you. All right, other, go ahead.
Jose,
Yes.
the checks actually are available as well, probably tomorrow. Is that what I was understanding, that the checks will actually be issued this week?
Yes, the checks are issued tomorrow. The email notification went out to the businesses today to let them know where they fell within that category. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.
Great, thank you. All right, our next person in the queue is Frank Lockwood. You should have permission to speak and unmute and let us know who you represent, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Frank Lockwood. I used to represent the tourism industry here in Durango. And before that, I was a county planning commissioner for 4 years. It's a pretty quick question. This is regarding the 5-star program, which I think is an excellent way for us to move forward, having especially seen the devastation to the restaurant industry in town. And I'm sure Dave Woodworth will talk about this a little bit more. But my specific question is, it looks like the 5-star program has to go through a variance process. My actual question is, does it really have to go through the variance process? Again, having been a planning commissioner, I saw how complicated that can be and how long it takes. And I'm not sure the restaurants in our town can really survive that. So again, I don't know whether this is a legal question for your attorney, Dirk Nelson, or for the city manager, a procedural question. Is there any way to expedite this process? Because I think Mr. Woodworth will probably tell you 50% of our restaurants aren't going to survive over the next couple of months unless there's something done to really, really expedite and help them get back into business.
Thank you, Mr. Lockwood. We'll turn it over to Mayor Brookie or Jose.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Frank, thanks for that question. And I think a number of us have been struggling with the 5-star. You know, there's been quite a bit of community organization around implementation of the 5-star program if, in fact, we qualify. But as of last night, I might say that the counties on level red, which is us, are eligible only if a county has a 2-week sustained decline in incidents. So that was the bad news of last evening. And I'd reach out to Tim or Dave or any of the folks that are, we're anticipating helping stand up that program as to other alternatives that might be available, given the timing of that it would take to implement a 5-star program.
Tim, I don't mind jumping in first. And you can obviously fill in the blanks and do some backfill for me. Yeah, the 5-star program is something that we've been working on for the past couple of weeks, few weeks, I should say. We have a really good opportunity to have some forward-thinking county, city, and some organizations that are really trying to figure out how this can work for our local restaurant community. So I feel like Mayor Brookie's right. We need to get our metrics in line first before we can do anything. And then secondary to that, we need to be able to get some letters of support from a lot of different organizations and entities around town. So Tim, feel free to jump in at any time. Yeah, we've been working hard on this, and our goal is to have this application for our county ready to go as soon as tomorrow, potentially. But that is obviously dependent upon the metrics and if we can get this going. But Mr. Lockwood, you're right. This is a variance process, and with that comes a lot of legwork, a lot of paperwork. And then you're waiting on the state to come back for what it's going to take. That whatever that gap is. So Tim, feel free to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, it is a variance process, Frank. There's no way around that. If we want to do it, that's the framework that we've been given. The details were released last night at what time, Dave? Is like 7 o'clock, something like that. And so a lot of us in the business serving community were up late last night and early this morning trying to get all of our ducks in a row. Dean is also right, though, in that there are metrics that a level red county has to meet in order to have the opportunity to apply. I think a little differently about the case count, because my understanding is that's 2-week cumulative cases per 100,000 people. And if you've been tracking our local numbers there, we are pointed in the right direction. I haven't done my update today, but I've been watching that for months and months. But that's just one of them. So I feel good about that one, but that's just one. The positivity rate, Frank, is another one. And we're not quite there yet. I believe you have to be under 10 for a couple of weeks, and we've maybe been under 10 for just a couple of days. And then the big one is the ICU capacity. And that number it's for me, Frank, it's very hard to pin down. It fluctuates. It can expand the total capacity of ICU beds. It can contract. It's based off demand. And so the percentage of beds that are in use, or conversely, the percentage available, it can literally change hourly. And so I struggle on that one a little bit. But the business community is going to be ready to apply the first day that we can. And we're planning tomorrow to have just about all of our ducks in a row on that. And then we wait for the metrics to line up so that we can turn that app in.
Thank you. Stacy, if I might be able to read a little bit of a workaround that I mentioned earlier in the program for those people that might be interested in a follow-up and perhaps an initiative that could be implemented in lieu of a 5-star program.
Yeah, go for it.
This is as I mentioned briefly earlier, I'm also president of the Colorado Association of Ski Towns, and there was a same concerns regarding the restaurant capability serving populations where they have 90% hotel reservations, and trying to figure out how and where all those people are going to eat throughout the state of Colorado. So there was a huge discussion amongst our members and our board yesterday, and I ended up writing a letter to the governor yesterday afternoon, which was sent to the governor and received about 5:30. And I'll just, it's fairly long, but the salient portion of that is the purpose of this letter is twofold. First, CAST, Colorado Association of Ski Towns, respectively request that resort community restaurants be allowed to operate at a 25% indoor capacity through Christmas and New Year holidays, so long as the community has the support of their local public health department. Many of our resort communities are at or above 90% lodging capacity for the holidays, and it's hard to imagine how these people will get their meals without some in-person restaurant capacity. In a metro area, limited or no dining restaurant capacity might be an inconvenience, but in a resort community, it translates to not being able to provide a basic essential need to our visitors. So that's the impetus of it. It's the second component of that. CAST is a second request that the state be consistent with how counties are assigned the color in the state's COVID dial. So it's clear that throughout the state, there has not been a uniform implementation of the level red, level orange, and that kind of thing. So some of our communities, Summit County particularly, is a little concerned about the implementation of the dial. But that request was sent to the governor last night and received by his staff, Xander, who's I know very familiar with Xander. We worked on the guidance policies for ski area development as well. I was involved with that a month ago. So that is a consideration that the governor will have to consider right now in lieu of the order that he gave yesterday, also with regard to 5-star. So this is just a urgent request for the holidays, for him to be able to just to say, okay, I've heard you. I agree. Restaurants in resort communities such as Durango, Colorado can stay open at 25% capacity beginning X. And that hopefully that he understands the urgency of that request, that we want to be open for the holidays. And this, of course, would pertain to only those restaurants that have implemented the strategies that are in agreement with San Juan Basin Health Department, which most of our good actors in our community have already implemented. And so it's just a matter of allowing you to still operate at a significantly reduced capacity, 25%, but open up for the holidays. So that's what I have to offer, and that's what's happening at the state level right now. We haven't heard anything, obviously. So, given the fact that he's had it for 4 hours, and hopefully we'll give it some reasonable consideration. What we could do locally is reinforce that directly from the city and the county. And I understand, Dave, maybe I'll pass it back to you if you've had conversations with the county about this very same thing.
Yes, sir. So I actually went before the Board of County Commissioners in their special business meeting this morning to just be under the public comment portion of that, to let them know that there's a need for something to happen. I always look at, right now we're working on a trident. We have 3 different avenues to be able to get to 25%. One is the organic way of going back to level orange. Secondarily is the 5-star program. And thirdly would be this implementation of an executive order from Governor Polis. So I think that bids well for everybody to know that everybody on this call, everybody in the city government, Tim over at the bid, Jack over at the chamber, Mike over at the La Plata County Economic Development Alliance, and Emily. I mean, there's a whole slew of actors that are trying to make sure that this happens. But yeah, basically, I voiced my support as part of the Restaurant Association, that the county also writes that same letter to the governor showing their support of this executive order to allow resort town restaurants to be able to open up for 25%. Because you're right, when you have that much occupancy and nowhere to eat, we thought the grocery stores were busy before. Just wait.
Anecdotal, Dean, I got a communication yesterday from a woman who takes care of a big house up near Durango West, and said people are coming up for the holidays because the house is empty to go skiing, and they're like, where do we go to eat? It's anecdotal, but it's real, right? And so thank you to the city and the county for advocating to the governor on our restaurant's behalf.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Just to be clear, the city hadn't written a specific, nor the county, I believe at this point, has not written a specific letter in that regard. That was a letter I wrote yesterday to the governor on behalf of Colorado Association of Ski Towns, of which Durango is a member, but council has not fully, had an opportunity to really have that discussion, and we will be, and I anticipate that we'll be having that discussion immediately after this. And if it's appropriate and we're requested to do so, I think that might be an action that we would consider on behalf of the city in conjunction with the county and Dave's organization, the bid, the chamber, et cetera. So I'll look forward to that. We may hear that when we wrote that issue regarding masks to the governor, it was very impactful. He heard it. That was a letter that was sent directly from the city to him. And immediately we got, right after we passed a mask ordinance, he did it statewide. Similarly, we asked in a letter from the city of Durango to the governor a week ago Friday, as I mentioned, regarding consideration of the 5-star program. That was added on to a number of other communities that caused the governor to make that consideration as well. So hopefully with this third try to get 25% opening in a very controlled and safe manner, then hopefully we can gain the support of San Juan Basin Health Department and offer an opportunity that doesn't negatively affect our the health of our community. Because the fastest way to solve the economic problem is to solve the health problem, in my opinion. So
thank you. We do have some hands coming up in the queue, but I wanted to, Dirk, I see you're unmuted if you wanted to address anything. Okay. All right. So our next, go ahead.
Sorry, would it be okay, Stacey, if I just did one thing?
Sure, yeah.
Say one thing on the whole 5-star program, and maybe even this executive order, if it goes through. I would like to say that as restaurants, we're not looking for a loophole. We're not looking for some quick, easy out to be able to operate at any sort of capacity. I think you're right, Mayor Brookie. We have a lot of great operators in our town. And I think everybody wants to do what's best for not only our community, but also what's best for their business. And I think it doesn't have, we don't have to be speaking in absolutes all the time. It can't just be you're pro business or you're pro, community health. I think we can find a blending of both. And I really want to make sure that everybody on this call knows that we're not looking for a loophole. We're looking to do it right. And we're looking to make sure that we can balance just that, our community health, and we can also balance our business health as well.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. If I can just respond to that, the 5-star program, even though we may not immediately qualify, or it might not be expeditious to serve our holiday season, is something that I think we should definitely pursue, as you have, and we've got buy-in from everybody over the past week and all of your good work. That is something that needs to be implemented throughout the spring, because I mentioned even on NPR the other morning, it was like we're into a long haul. We're looking till vaccines are rolled out to the general public probably early summer. So my hope of being able to have a full and wondrous summer season next year is we probably won't have vaccines to get us out of this till into the summer. So we need to stand up that 5-star program to allow you to operate for another 6 months. And so let's not set it aside. Let's just keep on track with that.
All right, thank you. We have a couple hands piling up, so I'd like to get to those. So let's move to Mary Shepard. And if you could please introduce yourself and who you represent, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Mary Shepard, and I'm with the Small Business Development Center, and I work with a lot of the other organizations that are on the call. I just had a quick question regarding the 5-star program. Has anyone looked at some pushback on looking at where the positive cases are coming from? Because I know that right now we're seeing a lot of positive cases in our community that are coming from residential institutions. And what those numbers aren't necessarily reflective of community spread. Those are situations where just their living situation creates a very difficult situation to control that spread. And that's affecting us being able to show that our numbers are coming down within the community. So has anyone looked at going back to San Juan Basin Health or the governor and saying, what if we were allowed to take those numbers out of our positivity numbers so that we could actually see what's happening in our community? And is the number coming down as far as just general community spread? Because again, there's not a lot you can do when you have that many cases coming through a situation where there's no other way to do it. They live all under one roof. And so it makes it very difficult to prevent the spread. So that's just my thought is, are we looking at where those cases, the positive cases are actually coming from? And if we were able to take some of those residential institutions off the list, it would really I think we'd really show that our cases are coming down, that people are doing what we need to do to slow the spread here. That's just a suggestion.
Thank you, Mary. Does anyone have a response to that?
I can jump in if nobody else wants to.
Looks like Tom has something.
Feel free to go ahead, Tom, if you got...
Tom or Tim, whoever.
Okay.
Tim, sorry.
Quickly, what a great point, Mary. It's awesome. And yes, we can ask. The metrics are pretty cut and dried, though, is how I kind of see it. But it never hurts to push back on how they're defined. I would add that those cases at those residential places, I believe what is the thought that occurred is that staff contracted it outside of work and brought it in. So is that community spread or not? So it's a tough one for me. And I'm just, this is just right off the top of my head.
I can say that is a study that San Juan Basin Health Department is quite active and can respond to. The news is not good. The news is that community spread throughout our community in all sectors are ramping up, and it's evidenced most greatly in those congregate populations. One, because they're susceptible; two, because they are in a confined environment. That said, as Tim just said, it was brought in from our community, which is indicative of the level of spread throughout our community. And restaurants are not off the hook exactly, because most of our restaurants have had some level of incident within their restaurants, whether that's caused by patrons or whether that's caused by line cooks going home and having a meeting up with their buddies. It's very difficult to control in our community, and so I think we would not get a really great response from San Juan Basin Health Department. In fact, it's not only San Juan Basin Health, but the state as a whole has been studying this very topic as to where the incident rate is happening within our public, and it would not be supportive of letting the restaurants off the hook. I can say that.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add? If not, we'll move to the next question.
Sorry, Stacy, just real quick. I do find that's a great question too, and I am going to reach out to Claire Nine over at San Juan just to get some feedback on that.
Great, thank you. All right, our next question is from Meg. I'm assuming we've got the mute issues resolved. Please introduce yourself, who you represent, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Meg Vaness, and I submitted the Durango Business Relief Program grant application on behalf of VFW Post 4031. So I just wanted to say I truly appreciated that the grant money can be used for fixed costs like rent and utilities, as well as payroll. The county grant and the PPP loans were both a lot more specific. This was a lot easier to put together and submit, and I want to say I appreciate the city doing it that way. I saw that there's a second round of applications being accepted, but that if we applied in the first round, we should sit tight and just wait to see if we get more funding. So we'll do that. And then I also wanted to say earlier, Jose mentioned that you are thinking about allowing us to have a break for maybe 3 months of water, sewage, and recycling bills, and that would also be a huge help. So thanks for what the city is doing, and we appreciate it.
Thanks for that feedback, Meg. All right. Our next person is Kate Hallock, and you will be given permission to talk, and please introduce yourself and who you represent.
Hi there. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kate Hallock, and I'm speaking in representative of a newly formed business alliance and concern of our rights and what's really going on for the businesses. I appreciate that you've been holding this forum, trying to listen in while doing other things. A lot of our businesses are very busy trying to keep in business, my biggest concern, I appreciate, Dave Woodruff, Tim Walsworth, you guys really going to bat at the state level. But one of my biggest concerns is that 25 to 50% is not going to cut it. I'm sorry, but it's not going to cut it. And so I really want to ask you, I appreciate the stance that Jack took in really recognizing this is not working. It's not going to work. It's not going to meet the needs that are necessary. That you would open the dialogue a little bit further than this, and we can start talking about how other counties are doing it. I think one of the resources that I'd like to recommend is by the City of Atwater in California. They have gone about it by declaring a local, they called it a, sorry, I'm forgetting what it's called, Sanctuary City Resolution. So our city, it would be a very different stance. But I want to challenge you to really consider this, because what we're facing is that our state is putting regulation and mandate on our businesses that is unrealistic and it's unconstitutional. And so there is basis for that from a legal standpoint, and we have been going through that process, as we all are aware. So I would love to keep open dialogue. I am not here to fight and to upset anyone, but I really want to caution our leaders and everyone involved that this is a constitutional issue. And if we don't treat it as such, we will have troubles down the line. If we continue to say yes to all of this, we will experience greater and greater issue and trouble, and we're submitting to things that we shouldn't be in the first place. So again, I appreciate you all so much. I'm looking forward to further dialogue. Just needed to speak up in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. We appreciate your comments and the resources that you've offered as well. Do any panelists have anything to comment on before we move on? Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, sorry. This is being a restaurant operator and then volunteering my time with the Restaurant Association. I've wrestled with this exact thing, and I'm not a constitutional scholar by any means, so I'm not even gonna touch that. The only thing I will say is that the only way to get anywhere, the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Right now, I feel like we have to ask for a little bit, and then once we can show that we are acting in good faith, we can ask for a little bit more. My concern is that if we ask for too much too soon, they're just going to shut it down altogether. And I say it could be CDPHE, it could be the state. So I guess that's one thing that I've been trying to be cautious of. While my goal is to push the boundaries wherever possible. I think a lot of these other business leaders can probably say the same. How do we push the boundaries as much as possible, but also ensure that we're acting within the confines to ensure that when we come back to them and ask for something more, that the dialogue just isn't shut off entirely. So I guess that kind of gives perspective on where I've been trying to come from. Trying to balance both of these has been incredibly difficult, to say the least. You know, how do we make sure we keep that business health viable as well as the community health? And it's once again, I think we too often we think of absolutes, and if you're pro one thing, you're anti the other. So I really feel like, you know, discussions like these are critically important to moving forward. So, you know, Kate, I don't know if that answers your question or you know, kind of goes towards your comment at all, but that kind of gives you some framework of how I've been trying to go about this process.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. If I might just add too, I mean, it is a balance. I can appreciate that. I'm not a constitutional scholar either, but what I do respect is the amount of money that has been appropriated by at a federal level, passed through to the state level, passed through to the county, and ultimately to the city of Durango, is kind of the trickle down theory of any funds that have become available for distribution to businesses and so forth. And that's all predicated on the fact that we are good actors ourselves. And that's the same as what Dave just said. I mean, if we can show that we are not essentially bucking the system, but in fact, understanding the overriding principle of all the funding that's become available to us, you know, that's something we are reticent to declare ourselves a maverick, and too much of a maverick, I would say. And I'm not speaking for all of council, but council can certainly weigh in on our need as a city to get the support from the feds, from the state, and from our county that allow us to preserve not only the restaurant community, but all facets of our community, including the City of Durango government. So that's kind of the balance that we have to strike as well. And so if we went rogue, as was perhaps suggested, like a county in California has done, we would probably not expect to receive the benefit of a number of the funds that are keeping us alive right now, quite honestly.
Thank you, Mayor Brookie. And I'll just remind everybody that we're not here to debate the approach. We're supposed to be talking specifically about the programs the city's been implementing and what works and what doesn't. So the specific feedback on limits or tactics, that type of thing is what we're here to listen to today. So please keep that in mind in your comments. Our next question is from Brian Rose, and you'll be unmuted, and please introduce yourself, who you represent, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Stacy. Brian Rose, Deputy Director, Region 9 Economic Development District. We've been running a number of grant programs across the 5 counties that we serve down here in Southwest Colorado. So I've got to see a lot of the need that small business owners are facing, and they get to see financials and that kind of information. We certainly support the businesses that are forced to stay closed and stay at these low occupancies as a high priority as you think about programs going forward. But I'm seeing the next biggest need is in the sole proprietors that are in our community. These are the people working in the salons, the music teachers, just they're the smallest businesses. Often they're single parents trying to provide for their families while their kids are at home. They struggle with paperwork to meet some of these grant programs, and they weren't eligible for PPP and EIDL and programs like that. So as there's more money coming forward, it looks like the SBA should be propped up by new federal stimulus and can help support some of the larger companies that can meet those paper requirements. So just as you think about programs going forward, I think our sole proprietors are falling through the cracks and need some help.
Thank you, Brian. Go ahead, Jose.
It's like they're really good feedback, and we are, we're at least happy to say that there were sole proprietors that were included in our first round of grants that were included in getting some funding. So definitely something to continue to keep our eye out and look for. But within these application processes that we're doing, there have been sole proprietors that have applied and will be receiving funding as well.
Great, thank you. Any other comments on that? Okay, it looks like our queue is gone. So if anyone has questions or comments to make, this would be a good time to raise your hand. And if you have been a member of the public and you've been reserving your comments, we appreciate that. And since there aren't any other questions, you can feel free to raise your hand right now. Go ahead, we have Lynne. Please identify yourself and who you represent, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Lynne Schaller. I'm a local attorney, so I represent a number of businesses and employers, nonprofits. I'm just asking about the second round of grant applications. Will they have the same matrix and scoring? Because I'm not seeing service industry addressed there, and I wonder if they will be eligible or if that's a waste of their time to even apply.
That's a good question. Yes, the second round is available under the same matrix and scoring and applications that we're doing before. All businesses are eligible, and it's the same one. So we're not changing the program in the different ways of the funding at this time, because the funding can still be used, and we anticipate it to be the same way that it was done the first round.
Great, thank you. All right, our next question is from Patrick. Please identify your first and last name and who you represent, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. A fairly simple question. My name is Patrick Armijo, and I'm a reporter with the Durango Herald. I'm covering the meeting for the newspaper. Just a quick question at the very beginning. Jose mentioned the dollar amounts of the I believe these were care grants the city distributed. I just wanted to get them repeated. I missed them. It was a score of 90. It was like 5,750, and then the 60 to 89 score and the 59 and below score. What were those dollar amounts? And I believe they were grants. Is that right?
Yes.
Thanks. Absolutely. Yeah, Jose, go ahead. But Patrick, next time you talk, your audio was a little crumbly. So just to make you aware of that.
Well, thank you.
Go ahead, Jose.
If they scored a 90 or higher, they received a $5,700 grant. And we had 65 businesses fall in that category. If they scored higher than a 60 but lower than a 90, they received $3,150. And there were 73 businesses in that category. And if they had a score lower than 60, they received $1,100. And we have 14 businesses in that category.
Great, thank you. All right. At this moment, we don't have any other questions. I would ask that if you have comments or questions to raise your hand soon, because if they keep trailing off, we will probably end this meeting early. We have one from Greg here. Go ahead, please introduce yourself, full first and last name, and who you represent.
Yes, my name is Greg Behn. I'm with Bank of Colorado. I'm also on the board of the chamber. I just wanted to ask Dave a quick question. From an operating standpoint, obviously I see the numbers as much as anybody does when it comes to restaurants. From an operating standpoint, how long does the capital component help you from whether it's $4,000 or $5,000 on an operating cycle? When you're talking to the restaurants in the group, how long will that help them, and what can we do as businesses now to help you?
Oh man, how much time you got, Greg? So to answer that question, that's something that that we had a lot of conversation around. The biggest question that we had from the city and the county, and Jose was a big part of these conversations, as well as Tim. How do we create the most impact with the amount of money that we have? And having those conversations going back and forth. Our goal was to truly create some impact, and to answer your question in terms of what kind of how long that could help. The goal was to be able to pay some of those fixed costs. When take El Moro for example. El Moro is shut down for all operations because it just doesn't. The takeout model just does not work for us. So we have to pretty much pay for those fixed costs. Rent, utilities, water, sewer, trash, all those kind of things. So the goal was to, be at least a month of help for some businesses. And every business model is going to be a little bit different. Some people are going to have a higher rent, some people are going to have a lower rent. So the idea was to at least cover some of that nut for folks, to be able to ensure that, how do we get this 5-star program propped up and ready to go? And so then that way, you're less liable to worry about some of those fixed costs in the short term, with the intent of getting this 5-star program off the ground. So there's been a lot of different conversations and a lot of different behind the scenes work by everybody. And I'm sure Jose can even speak more to this. But, we're, from an operational standpoint, I'd say this could potentially cover up to a month. But, with this second round, if there's money left over, the people that applied in the first round can apply again. And so if you didn't get it, obviously, but yeah, I think there's other programs available too. And just, it feels good to be an operator knowing that there's municipalities and entities that are looking out for your collective best interest. Cause, restaurants have been the economic backbone for the community for quite some time. I would say that's probably across the state. So I think we're starting to understand how important restaurants contribute to the society and community as a whole. So it's a long-winded answer, but what else can we do? If you have takeout, if you want to support those restaurants doing takeout, great. If you represent an organization that supports this executive order to the governor, send out a letter of support to the governor saying that, hey, we support restaurants being back open for the holidays. I will say that between Christmas and New Year's, that's one of the busiest weeks a restaurant can have of the year. And if we miss out on that, man, I said at the Board of County Commissioners today, and when you start putting zeros into the equation of winter, you start looking at some pretty dire situations. Typically when we go into winter, restaurants specifically, we're operating at full capacity over the summer to be able to tuck a little bit of money away. So when these lean winter months hit, we're in a little bit better financial position. Well, we didn't get that this summer, obviously. Secondary, we have snow down to look forward to. Obviously, snow down's canceled. And the holidays, being able to put some of that revenue away during the holidays is critically important. So like I said, when we start putting zeros in these equation, we really start looking at some pretty dire consequences. So that being said, write a letter of support if your organization supports that. And then same thing with the 5-star program. We need to get different municipalities to buy into it. And also we got to get the metrics on that 2-week decline, like Mayor Brookie and Tim both said. So wear your masks, socially distance. If you want to enjoy an old fashioned at my restaurant again, wear your mask. If you want to be able to go to get sushi over at East Bay, then wear your mask. Get pizza at Home Slice, wherever. Go to Cuckoo's to grab some wings. We have to collectively do these things as a community to be able to even open up at the barest minimum. So everybody needs to do their part right now, and that's kind of where things lie, at least for now.
Thanks, Dave. All right, we have another question coming in from Dan Schaefer. You can go ahead and introduce yourself and who you represent, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Dan Schaefer. I'm a family physician, and I own a whole health family medicine clinic here in Durango. It's a local independent primary care medical practice. So I straddle the economic and the health-related concern and the impacts related to this pandemic. I wholeheartedly agree with the sentiment that's been shared that the key to success is balancing the economic and the health-related impacts. So my question is regarding whether there's potential to add an asymptomatic screening testing protocol for employees and potentially customers of businesses in the context of the request to increase restaurants to 25% for the holiday season and potentially going forward. The reason I ask is, symptom screeners are of limited value in my opinion, and regular testing may be an effective tool. And I wonder if this is in the works.
Thank you, Dan, for your question. Any panelists want to respond?
Tim, I see Tim looking interested. I wasn't sure if this was part of the discussion that in the stand-up of the 5-star program that had been discussed with Leanne and the folks at San Juan Basin Health, but Dr. Schaefer's suggestion is a good one and should be part of, and I believe was part of the 5-star program, and I'm sure that San Juan Basin Health will implement the testing program required for restaurant staff and so forth is so that they, as part of their issuance of a permit to be open, if that were to become available over the holidays. Dr. Schaefer is totally right, is that, if we can, part of this is just knowing who's got it before they come to work. And so that's half of the equation. If we can limit the exposure to the create a safe work environment for the employees, then hopefully our guests are equally as compliant with their habits. But testing is the key to all that. And we do have a number of testing facilities set up now for not only employees and groups, but physicians and people with the City of Durango staff and so forth that have ability to get frequent testing. So that's a huge part of getting out of this whole mess. So thanks for that suggestion.
Thanks, Dean. Tim, do you have something to add?
I love that idea. I have heard Brian Devine, he speaks a lot on behalf of San Juan Basin Public Health lately. I think I hear his presentation 7 times a week. But I like listening to him. And one of the things that he's talked about is exactly this, right? The need to have these serial testing programs in the workplace where you can for asymptomatic individuals. Pretty sure the county has figured that out. My wife is a county employee, so that's how I know. So that's how we get our tests there. I remember back at the beginning of all this, San Juan Basin Public Health worked with some businesses to set up small kind of pilot programs for how this would work within their business. But I don't know the results of that or if those have stopped. I'm kind of assuming they have. So I'll look into that, Dr. Dan, and I think you'll probably be on a call with me later today and we will talk more about it. Thank you for that great idea.
Thank you. All right, we have another question from Carly. If you could introduce yourself and who you represent again, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Carly Thompson. I'm with Zia Taqueria. Dr. Dan brought up a great point that made me think of a sort of a hole that we're facing as a business that has stayed open during this. We work with Whole Family Health and Dan's team, and they've been phenomenal for our employees that are members. We're facing challenges with getting testing for individuals. When we have a big outbreak, like we did, we've been able to get mass testing from Cedar Diagnostics very quickly. But testing individual employees who are uninsured is not super accessible right now. San Juan Basin Health drive-through is the only option, and those results we're finding are taking 8 to 10 days. So there seems to be a hole when we need to test 1 or 2 employees and that employee is not insured. There's nowhere for them to really go to get any sort of results in a normal time frame that could get them back to work. So I don't know if this is the right group for that, but I wanted to put that out there, that's a bit of a hole in the testing availability in Durango right now.
Great, thank you, Carly. It's appreciated. Go ahead.
Carly, I just heard a similar 8 to 10 day turnaround from some neighbors that are infected down in my neighborhood here. And that's just, it doesn't do any good to take a test and only find out 8 to 10 days later. So that's new news that I've heard from multiple sources now that it's taking that long. The normal turnaround was 3 to 4 days. And for my own needs, that wasn't sufficient. So, I had to go find another testing facility. So I know, what we can do is find out what the situation currently is with San Juan Basin, what the issue is. And it's, I think it's a statewide problem actually, is that the labs that we use here in Durango, the San Juan Basin Health uses, are in Denver, and it's transportation time, but they're getting hit with all the communities throughout the state feeding into that lab. And that's just not working. If something needs to change on that front. So we will bring that up and see if San Juan Basin, if there's anything that can be done, alternate sources or different labs. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I kind of pose this question to anybody if they've heard anything. Is there any sort of grant program available to help subsidize some of that cost? Obviously Steamworks had that same thing happen, and they brought Cedar Diagnostics in, but they paid for that test out of pocket. Those tests are anywhere from $50 to $75 per employee per test. So I don't know if there's, with the new CARES Act potentially being funded in the next couple of days, if there's going to be any money available for that serial testing for communities. So maybe that's something that maybe we could look at in a broader scope to see if that's something that could be possible. Because right now, the last thing we need to do is to put the burden and cost on restaurants or people that are uninsured to get this test. Because you're right, Carly brings up a good point. 8 to 10 day turnaround does nobody any good. It just tells us what happened a week and a half ago. It doesn't give us an accurate snapshot of what's happening now. So maybe just something that we can have that 30,000 foot view on of how we move forward.
Thank you. All right, it looks like Carly's got her hand up again, so let's let her back in and go for it, Carly.
I just wanted to mention that Cedar Diagnostics, our local lab, has had really fast turnaround of 24 to 48 hours. And they were able to do mass testing for unemployed people via CARES Act funding. But they no longer have an option for those same people who are uninsured to get individual testing. If we don't need to test a whole bunch of people, we just have one person, that's when we're running into a spot where there's nowhere to send them. I am curious, the testing site that Cedar has set up at the library has been very fast, and the site that's helping first responders at Fort Lewis has been very fast. I don't know if that's being processed at Cedar or not, but Cedar seems to have capacity to do these tests very quickly to process them, but San Juan Basin Health is not using them to do it. And we run into an issue where on January 1st, we're not sure if this CARES Act funding is going to be available to pay for testing anymore, which is another struggle 13 days out.
Thank you, Carly. Thanks for clarifying that.
I might add that there was early on, there was a commitment from San Juan Basin Health to pay reimburse Cedar Diagnostics for anybody that was uninsured. But I don't know if that is, I haven't had reason to utilize that, so I don't know if that still exists, but we will find out if that connection is still in place, where, just as Carly mentioned, an uninsured individual could go in there and say, I don't have insurance, I've got financial issues, and I need reimbursement. So if there's not good communication between Cedar and San Juan Basin Health for that reimbursement program, that's something we can bring up. There is right as we speak, there's a policy group meeting going on with San Juan Basin Health, but we will get that information and clarify how that reimbursement can happen for uninsured individuals.
Thank you.
If I may, I just was chatting with Devin, who's over our business relief fund, and she's going to reach out to Cedars just to kind of kick the tires of what a test costs and see if there's maybe some funding out there they know, or maybe some funding we can utilize internally that might be able to assist. No promises, but we're making that call right now and seeing what we can do.
All right. We don't have any questions in the queue right now. Oh, we do have one from SD. If you could identify your name, full name, and who you represent, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Charlotte Dyer, and I'm just a member of the community as well as a business owner, just not downtown Durango. But I was listening to a city council meeting a couple weeks ago where a gentleman named David McElvaney volunteered to raise funds for rapid testing. Has anyone, that was through a city council meeting. And considering that this is all talking about raising funds, it seems like it would be great to utilize somebody who's volunteered to make that happen. So I'm just wondering if there's been any follow-up with him. And then on the tail of that, just as a comment, all the things that seem to be coming through are all related to grants and other different programs, which that pool's pretty dry. I mean, the Plata County's been saying how their pool of money is drying up, city's drying up. I'm not sure how long we can sit here and give handouts. I mean, it's great and take advantage of it. However, the talk seems like there's this never-ending pool of income, and that as a community member is very concerning. We can't just keep looking for handouts. We got to get people back to work. So that's all I've got.
Thank you for your comments.
I will say that that's kind of the reason that we've been, pushing so hard for this 5-star program is just to be able to allow us to operate. That's all we really need to do is operate. It's been so great and gratifying to know that we have such great great spread of community support, especially with our municipalities between the city and the county. Any sort of grant program to help our local restaurants is fantastic. But at the end of the day, you're right, that pool of money is not infinite. We just need to be able to operate. And while 25-50% may not be great for everybody, it's better than 0%. So it's our hope that we can get that program propped up and we can, eat that elephant, bite one at a time to get that going. So I can't speak for other sectors and other businesses. That's just kind of what I know from the restaurant side.
Thanks, Dave. All right, we have another question from Lindsay and Dan. If you could identify your full first and last name and who you represent, that would be great. And you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hey guys, Dan Garrick here from Switchback. I just wanted to thank you all for everything you're doing for the restaurants. And, it's a lot of trial and error, but we sure do appreciate it. Just some comments and some stuff that's working for us. I'll just go down the list here. The tier system on the grant, we were relieved to see a grant come through for $3,100 today. Our rent is, to answer, I think, Greg's question from the Bank of Colorado, just to put in perspective, we pay $27 a foot where we're at. So our rent is $4,600 a month. So that knocks out a good portion of that and kind of gets us through till hopefully February, buys us a little bit more time. So that was definitely nice to see. We appreciate the tier system and we think it makes a lot of sense. Tim, all the PPE that's been given to us from downtown bid has been great. And we just want to thank you for that and all the hard work you guys have put into the bump outs. Without the bump outs this summer, it would have been, they were invaluable. There was so much revenue generated from us being able to extend our square footage out onto Main Street. I just can't tell you how valuable that was. We were, obviously, we're big proponents of keeping that around. A lot of the businesses put a lot of capital into the bump outs and didn't see that ROI in anticipation of seeing them throughout the winter. We understand, there was one bad actor that plowed into the bump out down to Keela's, and thank God everybody was relatively okay. We would have liked to see some more work put into finding a way to keep those all winter. We're in a bad situation here. The end is now. For financially for a lot of our restaurants downtown, we don't have another month. So we need to make some things happen to generate some revenue. Can we revisit having those bump outs? Is it too late? Can we get them back? Can we have the meetings right now talking about what we're going to do in the spring? I don't want to have the meeting in the spring talking about bump outs. Let's get these things back, man. Let's pilot the idea that a lot of people share on shutting down blocks of Main Street. Let's get into this. We don't have time. We need to make it happen now, but appreciate you all.
Thank you, Dan, and we really appreciate your specific feedback on the programs. That's what we're really looking for today. So I'll remind everybody that is here that that's the kind of feedback we're looking for. So keep that going as we move through the rest of this meeting. Dean, do you have a response to that?
Well, I was going to ask maybe Jose, but also bid as to whether or not we are giving serious consideration what the discussions are happening around closure of Main in a carnival kind of atmosphere, and is that supported generally by the preponderance of businesses throughout in the logistics around that? And is there, it's a fairly new concept that's been advanced, and I'm not sure we've had time to digest it yet, to Dan's point, and appreciate that bringing that up. So can we get a little update on where we're at with that, if anywhere?
So I know staff has been working with Tim in talking about the bump out program and ways that we can help. And I think that Tim, y'all did an unofficial survey, if you will, of the business owners. And it didn't seem, from what I recall, it was overwhelmingly in favor. But Tim, if you may know the numbers off your head and what the responses were, I'll kick it over your way.
Yeah, it passed my test, Jose. And so, the bid, when we do something like this that's really out of the box, we did this before the bump outs this summer, Dan, you remember, we survey all the businesses, not just restaurants, not just Main. We need Town Plaza, we need Second Ave, right? We need everybody to weigh in. And so what happened on the last survey, Jose, that I just did, where I asked everyone again, would you support some type of outdoor space being created over the winter months? 78% in favor, 22% opposed. And so I felt like that gave the mandate, quote unquote mandate, to allow us to seriously explore it. Number two, when I look deeper though at the responses, restaurant likes that pedestrian idea. Dave, that's what Dave would like. That's what Dan would like, because it gets rid of that safety concern, because there's no cars going by, right? The concept was close a block, cross streets open for traffic, but people can be pedestrians within the blocks downtown where it makes sense to do this. The retail businesses, which their opinion is important as well, really prefer the bump out model because it doesn't eliminate as much parking as full pedestrian per area per block, and it lets traffic flow too. And so there's a little bit of tension right there that we've got to figure out how to address. And the last piece that I would say on it, and Dave, chime in here if you can. What I've been told is the outdoor space is great, but if we can't pair it with some indoor space, it's not enough. And it's just like a lot of the comments here, there's no silver bullet, y'all, right? We know that. We're just trying to stack multiple things to get through this month and then the next month. Someone made the comment, I think it was Kate, about 25% capacity not being sustainable. Exactly. And so that's step one, right? And so again, that's why there's all these efforts that have to work hand in hand. And so that's kind of how BID is operating. If we can get some of that indoor capacity back for a temporary period of time, then we're pretty close to being able to do something to bring back outdoor space. There are some challenges with that, but they are not insurmountable. And then last comment, I feel confident saying the city will make the bump outs happen again next spring. I'm not Jose, I'm not on city council, but I feel like there's overwhelming support for it. The city staff has invested some of its CARES Act fund to make some more robust barriers and address beautification at the same time. So remember those orange construction-y water-filled things that capped the bump out spaces? Well, those are going to be replaced with big concrete planters that are crash test rated, right? So they've already made some investments in some of that infrastructure. BID's prepared to do the same thing. And I think the real trick is how quickly can we open those back up? The initial thought was April, and the first thing I heard from restaurants is March. We want it for spring breakers that are going to be here, right? It's just like Dean's saying, people come to ski, they need to be able to sit down and eat a little bit. So am I right, Dave, on that you really need to pair it with indoor capacity to make it work?
Exactly. The even at 50%, that wasn't the magic bullet. It was working in concert with that bump out to make ends meet. Just like we just having outdoor space, it doesn't work if there's no indoor space. So there needs to be some marriage of both, in my opinion, to be able to make it work. I think it behooves all of us to let's get that bump out program for next spring. And Dan's right. We need to look at that now, maybe even the very beginning of 2021. Look and see how we can create that blueprint again to do kind of the same thing what we did, but what did we learn? What's that hindsight look like for that program, and how do we make it better? And how do we also make sure that other restaurants that aren't on Main are included in something else that's similar? How do we ensure that this isn't just going to benefit those downtown businesses? So that's something that's high of mind, I think, for all of us to ensure that this isn't just a program that works for the businesses downtown. How do we make sure that this is able to be utilized by anybody that can utilize that same public space?
I'll add one quick thing, Stacy. So right, Dave. It can't just be about Main. We've got to figure out ways for other areas of downtown and North Main. The BID works for North Main district businesses as well. And so one thing that I've been told the city staff is working on is how do we allow that usage of the parking lot to put your business activities in to continue indefinitely is the hope, right? From some of those businesses. Think about some of those North Main ones that have really figured out interesting ways to take advantage of that space. I think about Union Social House up there at, what is that, like 31st and Main? They're doing some really creative stuff to add capacity. And what I've been told from that particular business is, we cannot have that go away come spring or summer. Like, we're going to need that for a while, right? And so it's good that the city staff is anticipating that as well, because I think it goes, Dave, right to your point about non-downtown Main Ave businesses being able to benefit.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thanks. This is Mayor Brookie again. I just wanted to, thanks for that segue into the broader community and, beyond restaurants. One of the things that I know myself and other councilors have received emails about is leveling the playing field between big box stores and Main Street small businesses or small business throughout our community. And really what that is a bit of enforcement on our part. And I think, I don't know if there hadn't been any suggestions from the community about that or in this particular forum, but that is certainly one of the things that plays big on my mind is how we continue to create a higher level of enforcement at specifically our city markets, our big retailers, Walmart and Home Depot. So that, I think if there's anybody that's got a suggestion about that, I'd like to hear about it. But in coming close to the end of our meeting here, I wanted to give opportunity to the rest of our city council to weigh in if there was any suggestions or any response to the things that they've heard here today. But primarily we're here to listen, as you mentioned. So if there's more folks in our queue.
Great, thank you. There are more folks in the queue, so let's get to them first, and then we can go around to the council members and other panelists, if that works. We have Lynne Kitch. If you could go ahead and state your name and who you represent, and you'll have 3 minutes, please.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Lynne Kitch, and I represent Home Slice Pizza ×3 in Durango, Colorado, one of which was open during COVID. I'm going to be really quick here. You need a list of things that we need. Here's what we need. We need our business license fees waived. I think we haven't been able to use them like we paid for them in the way that they were designed. Liquor license fees, at least waived or at least decreased. My alcohol sales are down 66% in 2020. I think that is just a basic thing that you guys could do for us, even if it's just a percentage of them decreased based on the months that we haven't been able to use them, because pickup alcohol is kind of a joke. I mean, you can go buy a whole bottle of tequila for, what you're going to pay for a margarita from wherever. Sales tax, the same. I think 4 months of waived sales tax. The state just came up with a program. It's great. It's going to cover November, December, January, February, and there's a cap on it. I think that's totally acceptable to do it that way. Water, sewer, trash, 4 months. We need it waived. We need free or reduced vaccines when they come out, and we need to be expedited as essential workers. We need those because we're getting blamed, whether it's true or not. I'm not going to get into that discussion, but we're getting blamed for being the spreader. So if we are truly are the spreader, we need free or reduced vaccines. I'm willing to cover, if it's reduced payment, I would be willing to cover the extra fee for that, for my workers, if I could get them expedited. Right now, I am paying for, I know I got 1 minute, I'm hurrying. I'm paying for testing, like repeat testing, just so they can come back for my employees. But we are having trouble with that as well. I know someone else mentioned that. We also need this testing because it reduces the anxiety of our employees. They are very anxious right now. Another reminder, minimum wage is going up in January. My rent for 3 buildings is over $10,000. I just got a $3,100 grant today. Thank you very much, but it's not even going to cover barely a third of my rent. 25% occupancy for the thing is good, but it's not going to be the problem solver. Tim, thank you for the PPE. And City, thank you for the grant. Thank you for everything you're doing. And thank you for the bump outs, but they don't help me, but I see the value in them, and I hope we can get something for Home Place too. Thank you very much.
Lynn, thank you. We appreciate your specific comments. Thank you very much. We have another question in the queue, but before that, if there's any responses or comments from the panelists.
If you want to make friends, bring them a half gallon of hand sanitizer.
Thanks, Tim. That's great advice. All right, our next person.
Stacey, do you mind if I ask Jose to, there were a couple of things that Lynn brought up that I think
Sure, go for it.
Still in process with the city. And we mentioned them in our council meeting last time. I don't know, a lot of people on the call haven't heard that. Jose, I think it was the business license front and the liquor license and sales tax things I think we're still working on. Can you update us on kind of where we're at?
Yeah, so things that we're still looking at. The business licenses are something that we've looked at, and we're kind of trying to decide, how that works. Some of them, I think, the business licenses max out like about $170. So trying to figure out where that portion goes. The liquor license is a little bit more tricky. 50% of that does apparently, for our revenues, go to offset our police costs. So waiving that or not means that we'd have to go find some other place to find that money within our budget to go through. Obviously, restaurants are doing the same thing. I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't have to do the same thing. It just makes it a little bit more delicate as we start pushing some of these buttons of where council and priorities are going through. So the short answer is we're looking, we're getting through it. We're trying to figure out some creative ways that we can get around it in regards to making everything work and present those to council as they come up. Right now, we're just kind of going through the list of some of the things that are a little bit what I'd call more low-hanging fruit that are going to get us by here probably within December. Look at something that's coming out with this other $400,000 of grants coming in January, but also at the same time, looking at some of these other options. We're looking at the water, sewer, and trash. So that's another one that we're taking a look at. Sales tax, again, same kind of thing. By giving some of that money out, what is that going to do for our budget, and where would we have to make some recommended modifications to present to council? Just some of those areas have a little bit more of a tie-in with some of our other general fund opportunities that we have to provide. So just making sure that it all balances itself out, that we're able to go through and still provide the level of services that our residents are expecting.
And I'll just add, thanks, Jose. I'll just add that one other piece is, as a council, we're looking at a very low interest, flexible bridge loan program that the city potentially would backstop as well, which isn't obviously free money, but it may help folks get to warmer months. So we're looking at that too.
Great, thank you, Counselor. All right, our next question is from SD again. Go ahead and identify yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes. Okay, yeah, this is Charlotte Dyer again. I just wanted to circle back around to the offer from David McElvaney. I guess I just see that as such a huge deal when here again, we're hearing from somebody as far as the need for rapid testing and paying for it. So is that being followed up on? Or are we just, I guess that's specific to city council, I guess, since it was at that meeting. Thanks.
Sheila, this is Mayor Brooke. Yeah, thanks for reminding us of, and I don't exactly recall that offer from David, but we will certainly circle back and look at the minutes and find out. I mean, we can contact him directly, find out what it is exactly he was intending to offer, and certainly no, in the words of Jose Madrigal, leave no stone unturned, if we will. And I appreciate you reminding us that offer was made. We'll find his contact and maybe reach out to you if we can't find it, but we'll circle back on that definitely.
Great, thank you. All right, we don't have any hands in the queue, so as I think we'll go around and see if any of the panelists or council members have anything to add, and if we don't have any hands in the queue by the time we're done with that, then we'll probably close the meeting. So okay, we'll just start with Councilwoman Kim Baxter, if you have anything you'd like to say.
I'm sorry, I think Councilor Bettine had his hand up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Chris.
Oh,
thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
I just wanted to briefly announce to the folks on the call here that thanks to the Restaurant Association, the bid, and Locals First and some local businesses, we are relaunching the Feed the Frontlines campaign, which we launched last March. It is an effort to both provide sustenance to the frontline workers in various parts of the community, as well as to support the local restaurants and provide them with some income during this time. And so you'll see that campaign launched. If anybody who's on this call, local restaurants or anybody else wants to participate in it, the Local First will have the donation up and running here very quickly. And then if any restaurants want to participate, you can reach out to me directly, chris@durango.net, or Ryan Lowe at the Orr House, who I'm sure you all know, and we'd love to get you in that pipeline to provide revenue to your businesses. So thanks, that's all I have.
Thank you very much. All right, Councilman Baxter, do you have anything to add?
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for being here and for the people who attended and asked questions and voiced their concerns. You can also email us as well as staff to make sure that if you didn't get a chance to say everything you wanted to say, or if you think of things later, that we'd be more than happy to hear about it. I think our goal is to keep us a vital, prosperous economy, and anything we can do to make that happen, we'll try to do.
Great, thank you. All right, Councilor Noseworthy, do you have anything?
Yes, first of all, a huge thanks to everyone who participated and for your thoughts. A couple of takeaways for me were the sole proprietor and applying for this round of funding. And I'm looking at Tom and Jose and wondering, is there a more proactive outreach to that group that we might be able to do in the next couple of days to make certain they're aware of it? I know I'll be willing to send it out to people I know, but I don't know that many, all sole proprietors in the town. So I'd like us to think about how we can target to make certain those people are aware of the opportunity and are applying for the funding. And also on the testing, I think in the spirit of leaving no stone unturned, that might be something that we have to look and see if there's any funds within the general fund that can help accommodate that from now through perhaps the end of the year. So I appreciate that. And then also the forward thinking on the free vaccines. I think that's going to be something for us to think about as well through the budgeting process. If CARES funding is available, but even if it's not, if there's ways that we could help. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilor Youssef.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to thank everybody who's attending the call as well, and all the players here who are working together to address this issue. I want everyone to know that as a council, we hear how difficult these times are. We absolutely understand the pain. When you hurt, we hurt. And the entire community is suffering right now. And we know that. I really have appreciated the collaboration that I've been seeing with the various groups in Durango. The work, I've been fortunate to be able to serve on the economic sector committee with retail and restaurant. And I've really enjoyed being able to connect regularly with Tim and Dave and bring and other members on that committee, Jack Llewellyn and Clark Craig from Ignacio. And we've been able to successfully bring back ideas quickly to the city. And then the immediate response from our city staff has been really commendable. And so together, really as a community, I've appreciated seeing everybody step forward and everybody do everything that they can, and just know that we are doing as much as we can, and we will continue to do so. So I just wanted to let you all know that we hear you and we are feeling for you.
Thank you. I'm going to circle around the panel and ask for comments as well. Jose, do you have anything to add?
Just want to thank the community, thank Tim and Dave for reaching out and always having that area ability to continue to have that open dialogue communication. The council for being so flexible and really helping with the direction, and then also just staff, chief for the enforcement side at times when it's not something that's fun and not something we look forward to do. Appreciate you, Tom and Mitchell and the communications group for getting the words out, and Devin and the finance staff for really being on top of this business relief fund. Total team effort, And anyone there who has more suggestions or anything else they'd like us to look into, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'll definitely put it on the list and continue our process going, knowing that this is going to be for some months still ahead of us. It's not something that we're done with today. It's something that we'll continue to move forward with. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Dirk, do you have anything to add?
I really don't. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Chief Brammer?
I just want to say thank you to our entire community for not putting us in a bad situation where we have to enforce the law. So we don't want to make it punitive to any of our community members that are working hard out there just trying to survive. So thank you very much, and let's continue that effort, and let's continue to partner. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Tom, do you have anything to add?
No, just thanks to everybody for making the time available. And I think we had a lot of really good ideas here that we can move forward on.
Thank you. Dave?
Nothing really, just want to say thanks, City Council and staff, for being so open to ideas, open to just being a helper through this, because that's our restaurants need right now. We need help. So we really appreciate you guys working in concert with us to be able to make sure that we can survive. And Tim, he's been a critical part of our success in his work. We don't always get to see what all the key players do, just like, as you all know, in the background. And so being able to utilize some of those resources has been critical to us. And then also restaurants, thanks for, city and staff for working with us. Sometimes, we have to go to the negotiating table and we don't always get exactly what we want, but that's part of getting things done, is to working with each other and understanding where the other side's coming from, and looking forward to the future. We're not out of the coronavirus yet. We're still hot in the mix. So looking forward to future collaboration and to see what we can accomplish together.
Okay, thank you. And Tim?
Well, just echo the thanks. What I really appreciate is the attitude from our local elected officials and all of our local government staff and all these other organizations that are working on these problems. Of the spirit is, how do we get to yes? And we've got to continue that, even when it's really hard to see how to get to yes, right? We've got to keep doing that for our businesses. And then my other comment, Stacy, is just a thanks to our community for, overall adhering to the protocols. Y'all, I've watched our local numbers as close as anybody. And, at the beginning of this, we did really good. Summer, really, really good, considering the amount of traffic that we had here. Even when we had our spike, in the month of November, we weren't as bad. I don't know if this is the right way to think about it. We weren't as bad as other parts of the state. And coming out of Thanksgiving, we're not seeing a giant spike like we were so concerned about, right? And why is that? That's because the vast majority of people are adhering to what we're being asked to do by health experts across the world and across the nation. Mask up, don't go to work when you're sick, symptom check, avoid large gatherings, keep it in your little family, keep it in your pod, right? We're tired of it. I get it. My wife was banging on me the other day, like, we haven't had a date night in 10 months. And I hate it, right? It's hard, but we're doing good. The light's at the end of the tunnel. I see it with vaccine, and I see it with all these supports stacking up. So it's not forever, right? But we got another few months to go. And so great job. Keep it up.
Thanks, Tim. All right, Mayor Brookie, I'll let you close this out.
Thank you so much, Stacy, for running this show today. It's been enlightening, and I won't belabor the issue. I want to thank everybody for helping council balance the issues of the overall health of our community. And a couple takeaways. I'm about to enter into another meeting with San Juan Basin Health, and we'll talk about this availability testing, availability of why it's taking so long, where the free spots are, and so we can help them push out that information. The issue of free vaccines. I'm not sure what the cost of vaccines is. I was assuming that they were in fact free. If not, I would hope that there would be a program that we can implement to offer those free to members of our community. And with that, the last thing I will do is do an informal poll with our counselors this afternoon to see if there's support in issuing a reinforcement letter to this governor to request that restaurants be able to open up over the holidays at the 25% level. So that's a few quickies in addition to all the other great comments that were offered today. And with that, I will adjourn this special meeting of the Durango City Council at 12:40. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate it.